Okay, just a quickie to let you know that Conduits have gotten an update, both on how they work and how many you can use, and new utility has been added to Wowhead so you can try these out for yourself. Now, a very recent Blizzard post explained how the previous version of destructible conduits wasn't a terribly good idea, and that they agree. So, you know, so far, so good. The new system they want to implement has the following planned improvements. So, they say, conduits will continue to be items that can be earned from a wide variety of endgame content, so dungeons, PvP, raids, reputations, world quests, etc. I hope those world quest ones are terrible conduits, and you actually have to do something a little more involved in order to get better ones. Anyway, the power of their effects will increase with the item level of the conduit. Makes sense. Instead of placing a conduit directly into a given soulbind tree, you'll bring it back to your sanctum where you can add it to a permanent collection. So yeah, it's going to be essence-y library kind of thing. So yeah, once again, it was always really going to be along those lines if they were going to, you know, remove the destructible component from it. So that's good. That's good. There will be more than one source for most conduits to increase flexibility in acquisition and accessibility across different playstyles. This is great because, I mean, for me, example, I don't PvP. I'd be rubbish at PvP. You don't want me in your battlegrounds trying to acquire conduits. So, you know, having multiple sources is a very, very good idea. Because, yeah, you don't want to frustrate your player base by, you know, putting the best conduit for a certain class or spec behind something that they hate doing. They're just, yeah, that's not a way to retain your subscribers. And earning a more powerful version of a conduit you already have will simply upgrade that conduit in your collection. Once again, brilliant. You know, it really does feel like they're listening to feedback this time. In addition to this, they say that each conduit can be placed in multiple soulbinds, so you don't have to get copies. Excellent. You'll be able to clear all your conduits in your soulbinds once a week, and each soulbind will have a separate week-long cooldown. Okay. The reasoning behind this, apparently, is that Blizzard wants to protect people from feeling like they have to change up their conduits a lot when doing different encounters, say, raid boss to raid boss. So, what about the people who actually want to do that? Who need to do that because of the difficulty of the content they're doing? You know, the people who want their character to be the best it can be at all times. I don't know, it's just, what is it with Blizzard and putting arbitrary blocks on people's freedom to choose the way that they play their characters? This is a silly idea, and you designer types should feel silly for having thought it up. Now, you can swap between all three of your soulbinds at will, and attach a soulbind to a specialization, say Windwalker, or a damage type like AoE, or if you want a PvP spec, you can assign one of the soulbinds to that. So that might help alleviate the whole radar boss-to-boss problem a little, but even then it doesn't leave them much wriggle room for other specs. And to actually switch out conduits, like I said, you have to wait a week at a time, but I do hope that they change that, because that just seems like a dreadful decision. Anyway, I'll give you a quick example of how this Soulbind conduit stuff works. Okay, so here we are with the Soulbind Calculator for Night Fae and Dreamweaver, which are my choices. If you saw the previous video, all of our conduits are still the same. So on here, you're going to have a lot of these passives, like this opening one here, Field of Blossoms. When Soul Shep ends, you increase the movement speed of nearby allies by 15% for 15 seconds. Sounds nice. Any of these ones marked as a crossed sword are your potency conduits, so they are the damage ones usually. There are 3 potency conduits per soulbind. You've got utility with the lightning bolts, and then you've got endurance, which are the more defensive conduits. Now, they have made a few changes since the last time I saw this calculator, and it's definitely an improvement. We'll start by picking off Field of Blossoms, because we don't have a choice anyway. Now, for myself, I do have a few utility abilities here, but the only one I'm really interested in is Swift Transference. And I probably wouldn't take it there just because there's a couple of potencies which I think will be more useful. So reset, take my Field of Blossoms. Now the two, for me at the moment, are Way of the Fae, which is the Feline Stomp dealing 10% additional damage, and Scalding Brew, which is dealing additional 20% damage to targets affected by Breath of Fire. So ideally, I'd like to get those two in. I will start by picking off Way of the Fae, maybe. The Endurance Conduit, you can't get around it, so you're going to need to pick one. The obvious choice for us is Evasive Stride. Shuffle increasing stagger by an additional 5%. The middle tier is interesting. This is my only gripe with the system so far, otherwise I'm really happy with it. You've got 3 possible abilities here, so Empowered Chrysalis, 10% of your overhealing received or done, remains as a shield on the target for up to 15% of the caster's health, lasting for 5 seconds. So it's a relatively small shield, if we're not big self-healers, so it wouldn't be very big on ourselves, by ourselves. Soothing Voice, when your roots, stuns, and incapacitating class effects end, your target's movement speed is reduced by 90%, decaying rapidly over 2 seconds. Kind of PvP-ish, kind of useless in other situations. You know, it's not a very long movement reduction anyway. Or Social Butterfly, when at least 2 allies are within 8 yards, your versatility increases by 5% for 5 seconds. When this expires, 2 nearby allies gain this bonus for 5 seconds before passing it back to you. That's kind of cute, and versatility is a useful stat for tanks, even if it's half effective for damage reduction. And you know, you still got a bit of damage and healing. It's a boring stat, but it is nevertheless effective. However, if I were to choose Social Butterfly, that's easy, because, you know, I'll just do that and I'll go to my next Endurance Conduit, and the only real other option that I would feel like picking there would be Celestial Effervescence, because I don't like the other 3 at the bottom, so I would have to pick that. However, you know, if you were a DPSer, I'd be mildly annoyed, because you would probably want to take the Potency Conduit, and that means you have no choice but to take Soothing Voice, even if you didn't want to. So this middle section is more of a case of the conduits choose the passives that you're going to get, and I'm not sure that's a terribly good design. If we reset it again, you know, if I wanted additional utility in this build, and I wasn't all that keen on Celestial Effervescence, you go Field of Blossoms, and then you pick, well, you'd have to pick probably the Scalding Brew or Way of the Fae. So we'll go Way of the Fae, and then Evasive Stride. Now, Empowered Chrysalis doesn't look that interesting. In fact, Social Butterfly is probably the better passive for a Brewmaster tank. But I'm not all that sold on Celestial Effervescence, then I could go over here. But because I want the utility, I have to take that, even though it's not really that great. And then I can get my Swift Transference. Ta-da! And then you have another potency. So you... this one for me would obviously be Scalding Brew. You can't stack these conduits. You can't get 2 Scalding Brews and get 40% extra. And of these 2, while gold is always nice, you know, every 1 hour spent in a rest area grants you increased gold for the next world quest you complete, I fall from things a lot. You know, it's why I'm an engineer, because I need those gliders to save my life on many occasions. So Fairy Dust is definitely the one I would pick there, and then you've just got Pod Tender. So there's your there's kind of where I'm going in terms of builds. And my only real issue is, yeah, there's this suboptimal middle piece. I think that is probably the way I'm going to go for at the moment. But there you go. And, you know, this is on the Wowhead website now. I'll put a link in the description. And you can have a little play around with it as well. You know, maybe you do want to just go, yeah, I'll have both endurances, thanks. So, well, have Way of the Fae, and then on Evasive Stride, Social Butterfly, Celestial Effervescence, still Scalding Brew, and I'd still go Fairy Dust and Pod Tender. That's the other way I could go. It depends how good Celestial Effervescence really is, but if I want that additional utility, I would have to go the other way. Anyway, that is all I have for now. Until next time, Grumpy Gamer, out!